Give me.
Preacher Girl 316. Preacher Girl 316. Preacher Girl 316. Preacher Girl 316.
Praise the Lord, everybody. Welcome to Preacher Girl 316. We are thankful that you've joined us here today at www.kaz Radio. And today we are taping live with my co-host, Evangelist
Jocelyn M. Burrell. It's great to be here, Chelsea.
All right, great to have you. And again, we have a very special guest in the studio today. We have Eloise Henry. Welcome to Preacher Girl 316.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
All right, we are just going to go right into our show today. We're talking about women in politics. And also we're looking at prayer in politics. So we're going to take this show. We're going to have an opportunity for you to call in. So we're just going to jump right in. Eloise Henry is running currently for the mayor of Richmond Heights.
Ooh.
Right? Is that,
Yes,
I mean, that is
congratulations.
special.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And
Thank you.
we just want to take a little while to just talk to our audience of Preacher Girl 316 and just really begin to talk about, I mean, you're a woman, black woman, running for the mayor of Richmond Heights. Now, how does that happen? Here's the mic now.
Well, I'm only reminded of that sometimes. Sometimes people tell me, they'll say, you know you're a black woman running for mayor. So,
Black woman mayor. Okay.
right. So, it all started by just being on council, but even before that, I started on the recreation board. I wanted to become involved in the city. And then as time went on, it just seemed that everything in my life had come together and prepared me to do this. There were things that I noticed that weren't getting done, and I made recommendations, and they weren't getting carried through either. So I decided, well, I'll just run for mayor. So that's how it happened.
Wow. That takes a lot of courage. So how do you handle that statement, you know, black woman mayor?
Well,
What's your response? I mean, because really, when we look at it, I think the mayor that's currently there has been in office over 20 years.
yes.
Okay, so how do you handle that from your naysayers?
Well, I just look at it as I will be the mayor for all the people, not just the black people, just because I'm a black woman. So, and that's the focus that I had when I decided to run, that I would represent all the people. And I just happen to be a black woman.
Okay.
What kind of feedback are you getting from white and black people?
Well, some people tell me, they say, well, you know it's divided. If there are several of you running, it's 3 black people running. So that's just going to split the vote. And I just remind them, I said, well, I believe my campaign, and I know my campaign, is a God-driven campaign. So no matter how many people who are in the race, it's not a matter of there are 3 black people in the race. So.
Okay.
So what is your campaign running on? What is the focus of your campaign?
My focus is to restore financial stability, to increase safety, return recreation and open up our rec center, and to reclaim the nomination of the best city in the nation. And that is what we had in 1996. So I want to go back and get us there. And part of that is also with transforming our schools, bringing them back as well. So there's a lot of transformation that will be taking place.
Okay, so I believe your slogan is a new direction.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what's
Please
your
welcome on
plan
stage
to move into a new direction in terms of, I just heard you say Richmond Heights used to be the
Yes.
best city to live in. So
Right.
which direction will you take to get Richmond Heights back to that?
Restore financial stability, and that's the first objective, because part of the reason why we're not where we want to be is because of finances. So there was a while where our finance director did not reconcile our books. So we fixed that problem, and therefore we will now provide more oversight as a council. We realize there that we can't assume that the person who's in charge of those books are really taking care of every detail. So now the entire council looks very closely at our numbers. The other part of that is, keeping the community happy, and that's why I say restoring the recreational activities. And along with that is education. A lot of people do not want to be in our city if you don't have a good school foundation. So therefore, the school would partner, shall I say, as a mayor and the council, I would encourage more partnering with the school system, offering programs where the students could also work within the city and be a part of the city government. And sharing contracts with the with the school system as well.
Have you found that there's been sort of kind of conflict between the candidates? Like, a lot of times we see people having harsh, negative campaigns. Has that come up in your campaigning? I want to know.
Yes, it does, and yes, it has, and it's really ironic because in the past our city was always considered to be not a political type of city.
Okay.
So it was so funny in that it seemed that people started to spread rumors. I mean, it was like they just make up a lie, and then the lie started to propagate. And and I thought, I cannot believe our city has come to this.
Wow.
So, yes.
Politics seems to bring out the ugly, I think.
Yes.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes. It's because in the past we hardly even had to campaign in our city. You just stick a sign out, you go meet some people, that was it. Now it's like full blown, just like everybody else, including the rumor mill.
Okay, it seems like people have a passion. Then that's kind of good that people have a passion for it, and maybe it's going to get a lot more participation.
I think so, because it's sort of funny because the constituents say, well, I like that we have so many options now. So that's the way they're
Options are
embracing
good.
that. Yes.
What about your family? Does the family find this to be an inconvenience, or are they very supportive? I'm getting kind of deep. All right,
Right.
let me just calm down up here.
And it's funny. They're supportive from the sense of, you're always wanting to help and change the world. But on the other hand, there's some of them was like, oh, that's your thing. But they contribute to my campaign. They'll help me do various things. But some of them think, she's crazy. Why is she taking herself through that? It's so much work. I mean, because you almost never quit working. Even if you go to sleep, you're thinking about something that should be done, or you're dreaming about, politics.
Wow. So would you say, when you look at the economy, you look at education, because those are very important topics, even when we look at our president, people always point to the economy, the education system. So when you take those things in consideration, how would what is your message? Because right now, sometimes we believe that the school systems are not producing children to be, ready for, on a national level, to be able to compete with some of the private schools, to be able to be well-rounded. What are you letting your constituents know as it relates to your teachers, their accountability, their performance, out with the old, in with the new, keep the new, you need some old, what's the foundation? What's your message?
I think there's a lot of things, and you brought up a lot of things. But one of the core things is that enabling a child to learn, part of that comes from the discipline that takes place in the household. So having a good foundation, and part of this is not just within our school system, it's a countrywide issue as well. Because if you take discipline out of the classroom and you take God out of the classroom, you're going to have nothing but problems. I was a teacher before too. And this is a thing that I saw gradually. It became like unlawful, to even pray in school. But if kids don't have faith, and you can't discipline them, what can you do?
Right.
Teacher tell them to do something, you can't do anything.
Exactly.
So, and then on the other hand, I also majored in international business, and one of the things is that you have to take different courses on cultural understanding. So, if our student population has changed and it's majority African American, and on the other hand, the teaching staff is basically mostly Caucasian, then I think there's some diversity training that is needed.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things.
That's awesome.
But this training and this knowledge, there's trainings, parental training that needs to take place, that these parents also take on some responsibility for teaching and training their kids, and also the issue of respect. So I think these are the fundamental things, because I went to public schools.
Okay.
And if the child has the right foundation and you have the teachers with the right understanding, shall I say, understanding of the children and that relationship of how to connect with them, they can learn anything.
Okay.
Right.
So these are some fundamentals I think we have to work on. Otherwise, we have a national problem when it comes to the educational institution and how they set that foundation up. But I think if we work on the core, parents being more involved, and teaching their child about their history and respecting themselves and respecting others. And this is another thing, because I hear all kinds of things about my city, but one of the things is how much are we respecting ourselves?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yes.
Okay. And so, and I'm going to let Evangelist Dawson Lee jump in. So with the economy, it's a lot of talk about increasing wages, a lot of taxes are being passed, bills to help with the education. So, what's your thoughts? What's your school of thought as it relates to, the community not really having a problem with a small tax increase, or, what's the vision for Richmond Heights as it relates to the economy?
Okay, in regards to that, I think we need to do constant educating within the community of the importance of supporting the school system, because our buildings and the technology within our school system is very obsolete. So if people feel good about their community and understand the need for supporting taxes, a tax increase or more taxes, period, to go toward building a new school and integrating more technology, I think they will do it. So I think it's about making them feel good and understanding. And I do feel that is a need, that we need to change, upgrade
Yeah.
within our system,
It's
yes.
time for an upgrade.
Yes,
Yes.
right.
It sounds like you have a good, well-rounded platform, and we're trying to encourage people to call in and ask questions. I don't know if we have a caller online yet, but we want them to call in if they're interested in this particular. But it sounds like you have covered all the areas. So how do you think your constituents or the ones that are coming against you are doing? I mean, can we ask that question? I'm always trying to bring some kind of competition into the thing. How do you think their platform compares to yours?
One of my things I believe is when you run a race, you don't look behind, because that slows you down. So therefore, I give no credence to how they're doing. I just say, when I get to the finish line, and God has that all set up. So I don't worry about who's to the left, who's to the right, and who's behind me, who's in front of me. I'm just focused.
That's
Focus.
good.
Keep your head in the game.
Are you the only woman running?
No,
Okay.
2 women and 2 men.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. So if any of our viewers wanted to give to support your campaign, what's your contact information, or if you have a Facebook or a website or an office number or a contact person, we would like for you to give that information now. And then I have a couple of questions, but go ahead and put your plug in.
Okay, my website where you can donate is www.eloisehenry.com.
Okay, that's
you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, so how do you feel, how is prayer helping you through this process?
That's a great question.
It's just a fact. It's every day I get up, and if I forget to say something before I get to the bathroom, I look in the mirror and I'll say a prayer. But on the other hand, it's like a all day long process.
Right.
So the moment I feel sorry for myself or think things aren't going my way, it's like God sends me a testimony every time. Today someone gave me a call, and she had called me early, so I returned the call, and she said, "I'm really sorry I could not attend your event." But I was thinking about how something else had gone, and I had told her a little bit about it, and she told me about how ill she was and how she had written her a letter to someone planning her death.
My God.
Wow.
Yeah, and I thought, oh my God, I'm talking about silly politics, and here she is thinking I'm going to die. And she said, 6 days ago, I wrote my letter. And I thought, every day, I get a testimony where I think, I have to put all this in
Things
perspective.
perspective.
Be thankful.
And be thankful.
Yes.
Exactly. Every day.
Wow. Wow.
One other day, I was feeling sorry for myself, and I go out and think I just dread having to go do something. And I was on the way to church, and I think I said I was dreading going to visit a church versus going to my own church that Sunday. So I saw someone out, and I usually can't see him because he's a cancer victim. And I went out and I said, "Oh, I see you're watering the grass." And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "I am not going to quit until they put me underneath the ground." And he had such good attitude. He had tubes coming out of him.
Wow.
His teeth were removed. He had rash all over him from the chemo treatment. But he says, "I am not going to quit until they put me below." And I just got in my car and I started crying. I thought, I'm sitting up here thinking about something so little in comparison. And look at his attitude. Every day I have a testimony. So that's it. That's how important prayer is to me. And then I always say that, it's a constant dance with the devil. So I have to constantly, either go back and read some. And it's always good to be around people who are positive and spiritual, because the negative energy,
it saps you.
It does. It saps you. If you're around those wrong people, it just gets you. And I'm so fortunate that in my weakest moments, lots of times there are other people who are a lot more stronger, and they'll start quoting verses to me.
Wow.
So.
Well, that is awesome. It feels like that you believe that God is leading you to do this. And the Bible says promotion comes from God. And
not from man.
Just from hearing you makes me believe that you have been inspired by God to do this. So if I lived in Richmond Heights, you would have my vote.
Yes, and Preacher Girl does support you, and we are just honored that you are in the house, and I can't wait until our callers call in. We're going to wrap up and move into another segment. We have another woman that's in politics that's here with us, but we're going to have you come back, and I want people to call in because I believe in the new direction vision that you have, and we are supporting you 100%. And I'm letting you know today, call somebody and let them know we want them to call in and talk to Mayor-elect to be that's running, Eloise Henry. When is the actual date for voting?
November 5th.
November 5th. All right,
Yes.
so we want to make sure we get the message out. November 5th. Mayor for Richmond Heights, get your ballots out. Make sure you check out Eloise Henry and give us your information again for donation before we wrap up.
It's www.eloisehenry.com, and Eloise Henry is spelled ELOISEHENRY.com. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Miss Henry. May God bless you and continue to do well in this race.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. Thanks.
Preacher Girl 316, we do endorse Eloise Henry.
And I approve this message.
Yes, we did.
Thank you all. Thank you.
If you think that you can make it, you feel like giving up, you just throw in the towel. that you know.
Praise the Lord and welcome back to part 2 of Preacher Girl 316. I'm your host, Pastor Chelsea T. Purnell, and my co-host is Evangelist
Jocelyn M. Burrell.
All right, and today we have another woman in politics, and we are excited that you've joined us live here at Preacher Girl 316. We have Stephanie House, who, hey, welcome. And you're live.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And Miss House is running for City Council for Cleveland, Ward 7.
Yes,
All
correct.
right, wonderful. Well, we are just here to support you and hear your vision that you have. And so if you could just share with us, one of the things that we're going to talk about just for a little while, we want to talk about your vision, definitely, and the direction that you are heading for with Ward 7. So tell us a little bit about your vision. I mean, what's out there? What are you hitting the neighborhoods with?
Well, basically, when you look at a platform that I am presenting to our Ward 7 community, it really is based on family and neighbors, education, and community and economic development. I think those 3 elements are very crucial to building a strong foundation for a community and building it up. Specifically, like 3 major initiatives. One is around early childhood education with a sincere focus of securing dollars and strengthening early childhood education. All of the schools in our community are either an academic emergency or academic watch, and every study shows us if we can prepare our babies from the very start, then chances of long-term academic success is greatly increased. And so on a ground level, that's the focus of me if given the opportunity to serve. The other thing is around service. Service is very big. I think the creation of a Ward 7 service corps could be very vital for our community. Many times when you go out into the neighborhoods, people are always saying there's nothing for young people to do. What about our seniors? And I think that really shows how disconnected people are to a lot of the jewels, I would say, organizations that are doing great work in our community. And so the Ward 7 Service Corps is really an opportunity to give people who want to be involved to match their talents and skills to organizations that we know are doing well and doing good in our community. And then finally, under economic development, partnering with or creating our own workforce training and development program that actually leads to real jobs. I mean, we are in the heart of the medicine, research, and technology hub, being so in close proximity to the Cleveland Clinic, VA, university hospitals. I mean, it's just a no-brainer.
Okay, very good. Well, your message is clear, concise, and to the point.
Yes.
So, in listening to that message, let's go back with early childhood, which is really a place where my heart is.
That's right.
So, when we look at early childhood education, the voice behind the new programs would Step Up to Quality. And how would you say, because right now the line for poverty is changing. I mean, people are losing their child care vouchers, and they are really maybe $1 away from that line of, being denied child care. So if you think about that, how do you help those individuals in your ward, that's saying I'm losing my voucher, I'm still, one check away, and I took a check, maybe I had overtime, and I'm losing my child care. So now that puts them in a position, because when I look at Cleveland, we have a lot of stories from parents that are working 3 jobs or 2 jobs. The children are left at home with siblings of older age. Maybe we've had house fires and different things like that.
Yes.
How does an individual, with the vision that you have for those people, for that teenage mom, that single mom, that it may be married, how would you support? And they still want quality care but can't afford to pay for care. And then it's a challenge of being, a check away from actually being approved for child care. So in that, what options are available? Where would they go for those types of resources? I know you're talking about service and how to build community. What support, what message would you give to that mother who's challenged right now in Ward 7?
I think for a parent who may be challenged, I always would like to start off assessing what we have. Even me coming into, I know I'm not familiar with every early childhood education program. I know most of them, but I think that's one of the first things that I want to come in is actually take an inventory to see what are the requirements, what are the economic guidelines, and then from there, those who qualify, make sure they have the information so that they can enroll their children. But outside of that, there's a lot of work that we have to do as a community. When you look at churches and organizations, I think even creating, if you want a Big Mama toolkit, Big Sister toolkit, I'm serious. I mean, there are things that we can do in our everyday lives. Even the way that you have your home set up, from index cards with things written out on it. I mean, these things really encourage early childhood development, learning, pronunciation of things, and I think just a lot of people don't know those things. So if you can create these neighborhood family toolkits that promote strategies that you can implement in your home, regardless if your child is in a formalized program or not, I think it can go a long way.
So what are the major issues in Ward 7 right now, currently?
Major issues, I kind of alluded to it before, of unemployment, and then of course the abandoned and foreclosure crisis. I mean, those two things, hands down, are really a challenge for our community, and due to people's inability to make an honest living, I think the byproduct of is when you see the violence that goes on within our community, it really is those things go hand in hand. Some of the solutions that I have to confront that problem, as I indicated before about unemployment, as a council person, I think your responsibility is to create the conditions that will help your residents have meaningful connections that will lead to gainful employment. So that's making connections with potential employers, entrepreneurs, things of that nature. And then from the city's perspective, as they are having investment in workforce training and development programs, ensuring that those programs lead to real world jobs, not just a training program for the sake of a training program with a certificate that leads to nowhere. A good example of that is Newbridge. It's a organization that operates, it's like 36 in Euclid. They currently, right now, people can go for training for pharmacy tech, phlebotomy, and these are like real world jobs that lead to quality careers where you can make a livable wage to take care of yourself as well as your family.
Now, do you have competition in this?
Oh yes, this is probably one of the hottest races in Cleveland.
Can you tell us about the competition? That's what Jocelyn Gambarell wants to know about, the competition.
So currently, right now, the current council person, his name is T.J. Dow, and he's been in office for about 5 years now. And then there are a slew of 5 other candidates running against him, which I think speaks volumes in itself, where you have a sitting council person that has this many opponents and quality components that are providing an alternative, a quality alternative for the direction the Ward 7 community is going into.
And what areas are included in Ward 7?
So due to the redistricting within the city of Cleveland, the boundaries of Ward 7 now will go from Ansel Road all the way down to East 12th Street, from St. Clair Avenue to Chester, Euclid-ish. It's some cuts and turns in there, but that's kind of the general geography of it. Okay.
And how do you deal with literacy? Is something that's out there. We have a lot of people that's illiterate. And so I hear you when you were sharing about the programs that's available to help them to get real jobs. So how do you plan, if that's included in your vision, to deal with those individuals who are not completing high school, those individuals that's been out of the workforce for a long period of time and they need to bounce back and get back into the economy? One, even if you have those that are over 55 or 65 and they're realizing that Social Security is not meeting the needs of their family. But I know that that's a challenge right now when people are not finishing. I know, or do you plan on looking at the GED programs, any other programs that can help support those people who are in transition that maybe they did not finish high school, but they're in your ward?
Absolutely. That's one thing. As we have a focus on young people, there are so many adults who do not have even the basics. Like I'm saying, I'm 34 years old. I have cousins who are 33 and 30 years old who dropped out in the 6th grade, 9th grade. They're parents now. So I think having just some truth talk with people. If you don't have the basics, let me help you, or as a community, let's connect you to the places that are set up to help you get the basics. I mean, I was at an apartment complex, and that was what a woman was talking about. She said, I hear what you're saying about young people, but she said, I'm one of those people, I'm older now, I have children, but I understand the importance of getting my GED, and I'm kind of embarrassed about it. I just don't know where to start. And so I think sometimes we have to break down those walls, destigmatize things. I mean, if you know you need to get some of these basics, let's just help people along without any judgment. The past is the past. If you're looking and starting from today and moving toward the future, there are organizations that are out here that connect you to getting the basics so that you can be successful, get your GED, and then go on to whatever else you may see fit for yourself.
Stephanie, you mentioned that there were quality people running against you. What separates the boys from the men? What is going to make
the women from the girls?
Yeah. So what is going to make your platform more qualified than the ones that obviously are just as qualified because you gave them an endorsement? So what makes you the better candidate?
Absolutely. I think in my experience, hands down, is unique, and it actually lends itself well to actually being a problem solver. I have a bachelor's degree in civil environmental engineering and a master's in environmental studies. And throughout my career, from project management to working in economic development to working in education, these things, no one else has this experience, and I know it can lend itself to working with a diverse group of people and get beyond just the talk. Just get beyond the bullet points of I can do this, I can do this. The difference between them and me, I have done things that have shown and proven to be successful. And so that's one of the things, putting myself out there to explain that to people, as people can do a lot of rah-rah, good speeches. That's good. But beyond that, when you look at the challenges that we are facing in our Cleveland community, we need action-oriented people, and I'm one person who has proven to be that.
Okay, and so with that, what you bring to the table, and that you have an A game, I hear you.
I like that.
And I like that in you, clear and concise. So when you just gave me that message, you have the education, you have the experience, you have the proven facts. How can you relate to that individual who needs a GED? People like, when you look at politicians, you want to make a connection. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of challenging, people say, well, you don't know my story. You haven't experienced, not having anything to eat and let, your baby eat. And, so what do you have to say to connect with those people who may be intimidated by your education, who may be intimidated by your action plan, but at the end of the day, that human connection of me and you, from one mother to another, this is how it is. How can you make that human connection based on just experience?
From all the things that I've done, you talk about the great things God has blessed me with, from education experiences, part of that experience has been being unemployed for 10 months.
You don't look like what you've been through. Hello.
Right, God is really, really good. When you are someone who has 2 degrees who was unemployed for 10 months, a lot of times, I don't necessarily talk about it. You talk about when it's necessary, but I experienced that. So the feeling of depression and anger and frustration that comes from being unemployed, I truly understand it, and I can express to people and share my story, how I was able to actually overcome doing what was necessary. I volunteered a couple of places, volunteered at the Cleveland Metropolitan School District for a couple of months. Then he was the chief academic officer. He is now the CEO, Eric Gordon. I mean, God works in mysterious ways. I started off working at Macy's for about 6 to 7 weeks.
Hello.
You do what you have to do what you have to do. And sometimes people see certain things like, oh, she hasn't been there, but I have. And God has been really good to ensuring that regardless of my circumstances, I've had a very supportive family and friends, and I continue to reach out and talk to people. Sometimes we think that we're at this alone, and we shut people out and we shut down, and you can't do that. Sometimes it's your story to talk to 5,000 people and you only talk to 4,999. You got to keep going. You're missing one. Right. So I don't know what path God has for other people's, but I can only share my experiences. Right. And sometimes you don't necessarily have to live somebody's life or walk in their shoes to be observant to some things. There are some examples around of people who are struggling that have overcome. And I think we can use those lessons for ourselves and maybe do some tweaks and turns so that we can hopefully overcome the hump that we're in.
So even though we're interviewing politicians from the Cleveland area, the message you have is worldwide, nationwide. It can help people that are struggling with their jobs, struggling in their schools, struggling because it reaches everyone who has issues, who has. So I like that you seem to have it all together. You didn't just get off your high horse. You know how to come down to the people.
No, everybody has a story. Everybody has a
Yes.
story. And so I just encourage people, again, for those of us who may look like we have together, to just be
don't look
truthful.
like what we've been through.
Right, just
So-
be truthful because God is good. You
All the
know
time.
God is good.
If it had not been for the Lord on my side.
Where would I be? Well, that is awesome. Well, I am just, if anyone wants to donate and give to your campaign, we would like for you to take this opportunity to share that information
Okay.
with our viewers and our listeners. So please.
Absolutely. Well, the first and foremost, I always give my number. People can always contact me. I can be reached at 216-407-0876. And then you can log on to my website, www.houseforcouncil.com. That's HOWSEFORCOUNCIL.com. And then you can look me up on Facebook, Stephanie House, and that's House with a W, HOWSE.
All right, Miss House. Well, thank you for joining Preacher Girl 316.
Thank you, Preacher Girl team.
And we're going to be taking some calls. So we thank you for coming, and we wish you well, and just continue to move forward with the vision that God has given you. And we expect to hear great and wonderful things
That's right.
from Miss Stephanie
And
House.
we do, Preacher Girl 316, endorse Stephanie House.
And I approve this message.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you again. And again, get ready to call
Yeah, get
in to
your
Preacher Girl 316.
Questions ready. Get your questions ready. We're going to answer them as best we can.
All right. Thank you.
If you think that you can make it, you feel like giving up, you just throw in the towel. You can't find no way out. See, face of task and trials, you can't handle it. Right now you think you're losing, but at the end with God, you're gonna win because God, yes, He'll hear you when you come. God, yes, He cares. Oh, He cares for you. Yes, you can rely on Jesus. Rely on Jesus. You can rely on Jesus. Yes, you can. You can rely on Jesus. I tried Him for myself. You can rely on Jesus.
Lean it this way.
Okay, well, this is Preacher Girl 316, and we have a few callers on the line, and we're going to go ahead and take those callers. Caller with the last number ending in 7657, you are now live. Go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to. Hello? Am I on the air?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I would like to ask both. This question is really for both candidates. Sitting and watching the show, I see their hands is very full with, community, child care, everybody else in the community. So what I want to know is how do they balance family life, politics, work, personal life, and their spiritual life?
Okay, both of you get to answer that question. That's
Okay,
a good question,
thank you,
caller. Thank you for
How do
calling.
you balance life with politics, family,
Personal life and spiritual.
Right. So I think with that, it really is about having at least decent time management skills and understanding what your priorities are. At times things are not 50-50. I mean, there are times where at certain moments in your life, something may have to get 80% and other things get 10 to 20%. And then there are some things you have to just get off your book, at that moment and in that season. And so being very mindful of that, ensuring that, for me, as a Christian, it is important for me. I have to be fed. So, I go to church. Many times I just say that Sundays are the day that I go to church. I don't do a lot of things, running here, running there. And that's important to me. And many times when you work or trying to work in the public realm of things and trying to explain it to people, everybody may not understand it. But if you know what your boundaries are, just be very clear and upfront with those to other people. And whether they like it or not, they'll at least have to respect it.
Okay. And you?
For me, I became a lot more involved once my sons were grown, so I don't have to worry about that side too much. Okay. But I do take care of my mother, so that takes some time. But it is about time management, like she said, just being a good manager of your time. And when it comes to Sunday, if anybody gets anything from me on Sunday other than church, I figure then they got a bonus because really, I just feel that is my job to go to church on Sunday. So if those other people always tell me, I can't do it. So that's how I do it.
Okay.
That's good. Well, it sounds like you guys have the underlying balance of God. He's keeping it all together in your life. Your
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to do it anytime. Like before we start our campaign meetings, we are opening in prayer. Before we leave our meetings, we close in prayer. Before we go canvassing, we open in prayer. Just because, again, many times in politics, it's so easy to get emotionally wrapped up, negative energy, dirty politics, and before you know it, you might get sucked in. And so having some real spiritual grounding and foundation in the Lord just will help you keep a peace. Just keep peace. Have a peace of mind for me.
All right.
Exactly.
Thank you,
Exactly.
Jesus. Keep us together.
That's
All right.
good.
We have another call. Thank you, caller.
Okay, caller ending in 0461. Go ahead, please.
Awesome show. So encouraging seeing such powerful women on the show today. My question is, being in politics with your male counterparts, how is it or how has it been? Have you had any challenges coming and giving you what's due you? You being such women, very well versed. Tell me coming your way with your male counterparts.
Wow. All right. They want to know, do you have any negative energy or negative things coming your way with the male politicians that you are in service with?
Yes, but I think with Stephanie too, when you're in politics for a while, you set your boundaries, and it's just like with setting them with a dog,
Okay, there you heard it first. Preacher Girl 316.
So if you set those boundaries over time, people know what they can try you on. Okay. Sometimes I think, though, especially if you care about the way you look, and you might be fashionable, then I think that goes for all of us in this room.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Then sometimes people assume you don't have a brain in your head. Okay. So little insults, and sometimes I'll just say to them, "Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'm crazy? Where did that come from?" And so I just push it back on them like that, or ask them why did they say that, or why did they assume something. So that's how I handle it.
Okay, and you?
Wow. Just politics is a male-dominated field. When you look at Cleveland City Council right now, of the 19 council members, only 3 are women. Wow. 16 are men. And when you say that, people was like, I didn't realize that.
Because
but it's real.
Expected.
It
kind of goes with politics.
It is so... women have a really tough time being, I would say, strong candidates financially. They are always behind when you talk in the fundraising race, and then actually being elected. But what you see once they actually are in elected official, they do wonderful things. They really, really serve their communities, because I think women are just set up to be, they can compromise, they can work with different people. It's not always about me, 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 me. And sometimes that's what you face when you're in this political circles. But as Ms. Eloise indicated, when you set your boundaries with people and they know where you're coming from, you can wheel and deal with the boys.
You can hang
So even though they might have outward respect, do you think the face of politics has changed for women, but do you think underneath it's still this good old boy network? Do you still think you have a lot of fighting to do, even though we have
Absolutely.
Oh,
Hillary
yes.
and we
Absolutely.
have, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Because,
Temperature just went up, people.
right, because there's like a lot of underlying resentment for the powerful women like Hillary Clinton and even President Obama's wife.
Right.
You everybody hear it in the media. And not only that, they focus on dumb things. How many times have the men walked out not looking right? But a woman, if we gain 10 pounds, they'll go, oh, she has big hips.
Right.
Not addressing the real issue.
Right.
Yeah, and now that you just mentioned that, I mean, how do you feel about, I don't know why everybody is already on the campaign with President, when President Obama leaves, but looking at Hillary Clinton and they're saying, silent, but we kind of already know she's the best person. So when you think about that, do you think it's, how do you feel?
As far as
A woman?
President.
Oh, I think a woman president would be amazing. There are so many other countries that have embraced women being the heads of states, and I think it's time for the United States of America to seriously consider a woman. A Hillary Clinton, when she was running again against President Obama, she had a very good campaign, and hopefully it would inspire other women to do what's necessary, that groundwork, do the fundraising. And that's the big part about it. I mean, politics is about raising a lot of money, especially when you're on that level. Mm-hmm. So I think the temperature is right now for the U.S. to really look at women candidates to take that role.
Okay, how do you both feel about one of the things when we look at women in politics? How do you take your body off the table?
Well, personally, I don't want to take mine off the table. I mean, it's just like in marketing, in any kind of marketing. Mm-hmm. It's the whole package. When you look at the corporate CEOs, what they said is the majority of them are white men with hair, and they're over 6 feet tall.
It makes a difference. The package makes a difference.
It does.
I always said when McClain was running, his arms disqualified him.
Really? People actually, they look at the stature.
Geico.
Well,
okay, getting to this, what do you think Sarah Palin did for women politics? What do you think?
Well, I think she set us back. I mean, because beyond
how far back? Way
well,
back.
And again, it just depends on what type of public servant you're trying to be. I think I'm an individual who is all about fashion. I take care of myself. But then beyond that, there are some additional steps that women candidates have to put forth. You have to let them know that, yes, you may be as smart, but sometimes you have to be smarter than everyone else in the room just to even get a second look. Like, oh, she knows what she's talking about. Again, because those stereotypes are there, people prejudge you, and they don't think women are tough enough to rumble in politics. But we are, and there are plenty examples of that. We have right now here in our area Senator Nina Turner, who is running for Secretary of State. You're right. So you have Representative Sandra Williams. I mean, Congresswoman Marsha Fudge. There are a lot of great women that we have as examples here in the Cleveland area that show that you can be pretty and smart and rumble with the men.
Preacher Girls in the house. Say that. Hello. Preacher Girl 316. All right, we have another caller. Caller, you're live on the air. Go ahead with your question.
Hello?
Yes, caller. Thanks for calling Preacher Girl 316. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, Preacher Girl 316. Hi, guests. You guys look amazing this evening. I have a question for both of the guests.
if you're elected into office, what's the first thing you would do in your new position?
Great question. Thank you, caller.
Miss Eloise, would you like to answer first?
Yes. I'm a process improvement consultant, and what you do in order to determine what you need to do, what are the changes and the impact of those changes, you do an assessment. So that's what I would do, a capability maturity model assessment of the entire processes for City Hall.
Wow. Sounds like quality control is very important.
Yes, it is.
She took the words out of my mouth. I think before you can go in and make changes, you really, really have to take an assessment of financially where you are, programmatically where you are, and then from there you can fill in gaps where they may be necessary. So again, you first thing before you start taking out the red marker and marking things up, you really need to take an assessment of what has been happening, because it's one thing to want to do a job, it's a totally different thing doing the job, and you want to make sure you're making smart choices.
Okay, and so I guess one question, I'm thinking about President Obama when he said that he had to get the truck out of the ditch, the car out of the ditch before he could drive. So are any of your areas you feel in your ward in Richmond Heights, do we have any vehicles in the ditch before we can begin to drive?
I think mine might be in the impound, the ditch, and that's honestly speaking, we have some challenges in Ward 7. Like I said, that's why it's such a crowded field, because we have some serious challenges.
Okay, so and what do you think?
Well, in ours, of course, it's the finances, so we really need to know where our dollars are and how much do we actually have.
Okay, so we need some economical development plans, some recovery plans.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly, and that is one of the other issues. We have one in terms of, we've had one in the past in terms of managing our books, but also economic development is the core problem, because if we don't think of better ways to bring money into the city, then we're going to continue to have these problems that are manifested.
And go ahead.
As a mayor, do you get to pick the people who help you, or are they also elected?
Yes, I get to pick some.
So
the
that would be
administration.
good, because you would know the qualifications and that they can help you. It'd be hard just to have anybody in there that might not be qualified.
Exactly. But part of that process also is that there are some people who are appointed to boards, and you wait till their time is out before. And it's not a good idea to go wash out everybody.
Right.
All is not bad in Rome, So.
Okay. And so how do you feel? We're going to get ready to wrap up, but one question just closing out. Do we have another caller? Not yet? Okay. So before we close out today, thanks again for you being here on today.
Thank you for having me.
We're very excited
Thank you.
having
Yes.
you. If you could leave a message with our viewers on today, what would be your closing message?
Eloise Henry will take Richmond Heights in a new direction.
Okay.
That's good.
I think, with Stephanie House, just consider me on Tuesday, September 10th, which is 6 days away. But regardless, whatever community that you're in, bad people stay in office when good people don't vote. So just make sure that you get out and exercise your right to vote, because your vote is your voice.
That's awesome.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
thank
awesome.
you.
And that's what Preacher Girl is about. It's about finding your voice.
Yes.
And Miss Stephanie House, I heard some wonderful things about you prior to coming and just talking to people. The Ward family, Morrell and Ward family, they share some good things with me about you. So God bless you both.
Thank you.
And let's go do this. Amen.
Yes, you are
Amen.
going to be in our prayers. This is
Thank you.
Preacher Girl 316, and we have a voice today.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Preacher Girl 316.